And welcome back to the Golf Intervention Podcast. This is a show where we are solely dedicated to your performance on the golf course and helping you with the process of learning and playing better. My name is Eric Layton. My co-host is Rob Fales. We teach golf in Central Virginia, and we are your co-pilots on this journey of golf. Do you like that, Rob?
I loved it, yeah.
On your journey of golf. And on this mini episode, we take just one question from a listener, and we try to answer it with as much context as we can in about 10 minutes. So I think it's really fun. It's sort of like topics that aren't as deep as some of our other episodes. So they don't warrant a whole show, but kind of really, really good topics. So this one comes from Bill in Loxahatchee, Florida. Bill writes, Rob and Eric, my driving range at the local course that I play isn't great. The balls aren't any good. I don't like to use them. So I am going to try to practice more on the golf course. Can you give me a few keys to better practice when I'm actually out on the course? Rob, this sounds like a perfect Rob Fales question. Like if I could dial up a Rob. Bill from Loxahatchee had a great question for Rob Fales, and I can't wait to hear the answer.
Absolutely. Yeah, so this is how I prefer people to use the golf course. I think I'm of the opinion that we should be spending most of our practice time on the golf course, practicing on the golf course more than we're playing for score on the golf course, for sure. Because there's so much information in the environment that we need to learn to be more attuned to. So the first thing is, okay, are we doing shot training? Are we doing skill training? Are we doing swing training? Right? If we're doing shot training, and that I also kind of maybe lump that into maybe some score training as well, that's going to be more outcome focused, right? Not in terms of like where your attention is when you're actually hitting the shot, because again, I don't want you necessarily outcome focused during that time, but it's going to be more of like a performance task. Like, okay, I'm going to go out there and on each green, let's just say you're going to shine a spotlight on your short game. All right, I'm going to track P12s. All right, every green, I'm going to put a golf ball somewhere in a different lie, on a different slope, different distance from the hole, and we're just going to track how many I get inside 12 feet. Right, and that's what you're doing throughout these 9 holes. Right, and you get a bunch of spacing in between. You get a bunch of variability. Mm-hmm. And you're doing it in the context, in the environment that you're going to play in, so the transfer is incredibly high, right? So you might only be doing 9 reps, but what you learn in those 9 reps is almost assured to transfer. Whereas when you do it on the practice facility, you're going to have to be way more creative to get that to transfer. So that would be number one, right? So if you're doing more of like a score or even maybe like shot training, which is really kind of improving your process, I love doing that on the golf course. I think it's so like just shine a spotlight on something, right? It could be driving, it could be approach, it could be short game, it could be putting. And track and have a metric that you're actually tracking to see if you're kind of hitting your desired number. So that would be number one, right? That can also be more of like a constraints-led type of activity as well. Let's say that you're chronically open face to path, like balls curving right, balls curving right, balls curving right. Well, you can set certain constraints and say, okay, well, if the ball doesn't curve, so my coach has taught me how to close the face of the path so that it doesn't curve. When my golf ball doesn't curve, I give myself a 20-yard bonus. So I get to pick it up and I get to move it 20 yards closer in the same cut, and I play from there. If it curves just a little bit, I play from where it lies. If it over curves the wrong direction, I give myself a 20-yard penalty. I have to drop it further from the green, right? So you're still playing golf, but you're really putting your attention on that one skill of face to path because there's an outcome associated with that. It's meaningful. It's way more meaningful to your score than it already would be, right? Mm-hmm. So things like that can be really helpful. I've done stuff like 2 drives and 5 is great. So you basically play 2 tee shots. You will eliminate one side. So you'll eliminate left rough or right rough, right? So you're going to say, okay, well, one side is a 2-shot penalty. The other side is a 1-shot penalty. If I get it in the fairway, it's a 0-shot penalty. So you get 2 drives, then you pick both balls up, and then you go into like a distance wedge zone. You play a par 3 from there, and then you go just off the green, and then you play an up and down like a par 2, right? So your goal is to make 5 on the hole, which is really, really difficult, but that's no penalty shots off the drive, par the par 3, par the par 2 for a total of 5, right? So let's say you hit 1 ball in the fairway, 1 ball in the 1-shot penalty area. And by the way, you can customize this. You can make like rough is always 1-shot penalty, fescue or bunkers is 2, right? Like, so you can definitely be creative with this. But let's say you get a 1-shot penalty off the drive. Well, okay, well now you got to birdie the par 3, or you got to chip in the par 2, right? So games like that are really helpful as well. So I put all of those things in kind of like the shot, or like kind of like the score training. You can also do skill training on the golf course, which on the range, because it's totally flat, there's really no other great way of doing it other than just like making intentional errors on purpose. Like bomb swing higher than the ball, bomb swing lower than the ball, further back, further forward, further right, further left. So like literally making errors by moving the bottom of your golf swing in different locations, changing the face to path in different ways, with the understanding that the golf course is asking you to do that. So on that shot on the range where you get the bottom of the swing too low and you chunk it, well, good news, right? If the ball's below your feet on the golf course, that's what it's asking you to do, right? So you've actually learned to do that. So on the golf course, you can, again, shine a spotlight on arc height. So a couple ways of doing that is by giving yourself different slopes in terms of the ball being above your feet and below your feet, and just tracking how many hit the club face, right? That's a pretty easy one, right? You can also use lie in getting the ball at different heights in the grass. You can go way up on top, middle of the grass, bottom of the grass, and again, just track how many do you get the arc height in a functional spot. Essentially, does the ball hit the face or not, right? So this would be a great level 1 task. Also, usually pretty relevant level 2 golfer task as well. So again, when you give yourself that variability, right, you're having to change where the bottom of the swing is, but you're trying to create that same sort of like ball club face interaction. Whereas when you're on the range, you're trying to do the same thing. You're trying to get the bottom swing in different places, but it's going to be a different ball club interaction each time. Right? So hopefully that makes sense. You could absolutely skill train on the golf course. I like taking 2 balls. 1 ball has like a D written on it. 1 ball has an F. So on the D ball, I have to hit draws. On the F ball, I have to hit fades, and I play both balls and then see if I can, which one has the lower score, right? You can also do the same thing for like toe and heel. So you can have 1 ball that has a T and the other ball has an H. The toe ball, you have to hit everything just a little bit out the toe. The heel ball, you have to hit everything just a little out the heel, and learn to score that way. Other examples of skill training is like 1 club. Like just taking 1 club out in the golf course and trying to shoot your lowest score with 1 club is an amazing skill task, because you're having to change the loft, you're having to change speed, right? You're having to change impact spot, all those things in the context of just getting the ball in the hole, right? So I love things like that too. So like skill training is great. Finally, you can swing train on the golf course. And this is where it's the trickiest, because you need to have feedback that is not directly tied to the shot, right, or the skill stuff. So this is where if you have any way of getting feedback on this that isn't directly tied to impact, you can just go out and play 9 holes and say, okay, I'm going to keep track of how many times I make the swing that I want to make. And I don't care where the ball goes. I don't care what score I shoot. I'm literally just trying to rack up as many swings like I want as possible. And by the way, like that's one way you could do it. That's giving you variability and spacing in between. But you can also do like the sandwich drill. So you can say, like, okay, I'm going to make the swing on my first shot be too much the old way. On my second shot, I'm going to make it too much the new way. And then on the third shot, I'm going to try to dial in the in-between, or like the way that I'm trying to make it, right? Mm-hmm. So you can do that too. So no, thank you for this question, Bill, because I loved this, and I just think there's so many creative ways you can go out and learn on the golf course that are actually going to transfer to when you play. that are way more efficient, way more fun than what people typically do on the range. So,
And
sorry
Bill,
for that huge diatribe.
that's awesome. That's exactly what the show's all about. And Bill, be careful for alligator. It sounds like Loxahatchee. There'd be a lot of alligators. So when you're practicing this from off the side of the those little shots around the green, just be careful where you're standing. Watch your back.
Yes.
We'll get nervous for you, Bill and Loxahatchee. But practicing on the course is essential for good players. I know not everybody can do it, but if you have access to a course and you can practice in that way and not hold up play, you should absolutely do it. Bill, thank you for the question. We will catch you next time on the Golf Intervention Podcast.